Hi there, Sandra from Create in Spain. A little while ago I made some iris movements. This is what I'm talking about. And they're great fun. They can be wonderful in cards, but unless you know how to design them, they can be a little bit tricky. And I designed it originally by trial and error. Well, having looked online, there is an easier way of designing them, and that is with a site, which is actually an iris calculator. Now, while it is probably intended for more technical business use and people who want to make multitudes of items for sale, that type of thing, you can, for a small membership fee, get access to the calculator, download a DXF, and use that in your cutting machine, assuming your cutting machine allows you to import SVGs, which mine certainly does. Now, this is one that the iris calculator actually calculated for me. I put in the dimensions in the boxes for the outside, the inside, the number of segments I wanted, the blades, which is 3 in this particular case, and it calculated it for me. I downloaded the DXF and I just put it together, and it works perfectly, absolutely perfectly. I'm really quite surprised how easy it was to go together, and it does exactly what I wanted it to do, which is wonderful. Now, the only thing that I did was I modified the file very, very slightly, and I'll go on my computer in a minute and explain what I did. Only very slight modification, and that's because it's going to be used for cards and it is made of card. And I think it is really wonderful. So if you wanted to make a lot of these different kind of designs, and you wanted to experiment with a number of leaves, you wanted to do different things, maybe for a classroom environment or just for your crafting pleasure, it may not be a bad idea to have a look at the site and see. Now, I'm going to be perfectly upfront. I didn't have to pay to access the site. I contacted the guy who runs it and said I'm interested in doing a review of this because I'm interested in showing people how they are designed and made. And he's given me access to it so I don't have to pay for the downloads, but the fee is relatively minimal anyway. So what I'm going to do now is go onto my computer and show you what the site looks like, how you can take the file which is downloaded and modify it as needed for it to cut in exactly the way you think it's going to cut, and I'll come back and see you in a minute. It's iriscalculator.com. I'm on the design page, and here you can see what an iris design will look like if it is all transparent. Now, if you click off of different things on here, it will switch them on or off so you can view different things at any time, which is quite a handy thing to be able to do. And over here is where you download the DXF. So underneath this, we have our design page, and you can see the things that I have filled in. Now, all I changed in here were the outside diameter, the maximum aperture, the minimum aperture, and the number of blades. Everything else I left to the calculator to sort out because I'm not that mathematically inclined. So you then go to the calculator, it does its calculations. Now, I have to confess that in here I put the outside diameter as 100 millimeters. Now, because it's obviously not possible with the measurements that I've put in, it's upscaled it for me to 107. Okay, so that's what it's done. This particular one I've chosen to have 6 blades, so I'm going to see how that works out. And I've already downloaded the file. Having downloaded the file, I've now imported it to SureCutSlot via the SVG import. So here are the bits that I needed. I wanted the base, I wanted the piece with the slots in, and I wanted 6 of the blades. Now, if I zoom into here, we get a bit of a closer view. Now, what I've done here is I've grouped these so I can move these around as I want, and I did obviously multiply it to get the 6. In here, I've got a circle here. If I cut that circle, it's just going to fall to bits. So I really don't want that. So I'm just going to select that and take it away because I don't need it. And then I'm just going to take that and group it. Now, in the previous one that I showed you just now, the slots here have got several lines that I really don't need. Don't know quite why they're there, but they're there. And the other thing was that the slots actually went to the inside of the circle, and I wasn't entirely sure that that was a good idea on a card version. Maybe on something very solid like a piece of plastic or metal it would be okay. On card I thought it might make it a little flimsy. So all I've got to do is to break these apart, remove that inner line because I just don't need it. Let's see if I can remove that now. Nope, remove the wrong one. Hold on. Undo. Okay, so I'll go in there and remove that inner line. Just make sure this is all broken apart again. And see if I can pick the middle one this time. Yeah, I think that's done it. Okay, so I will remove those. What I would do as well is to lock this inner circle. So I will go to Object and Lock. And then I'll take the eraser and I'll just erase those little bits there. Okay, so I can go around, I can erase all those edges, and then I can take my drawing tool and I can close those lines up. Now I'm not going to do that on video, it's going to be dull and boring. I really don't need to do it. Now, if this one is going to be your top layer, if you wanted to, you could add a tab to the side of it so that you can rotate it, or else you can cut one out separately and you can glue it on afterwards. Makes little difference. The other thing that I would do is I would take that and I would copy it and paste it, move it to one side like so, and I want to break that apart, and I want, out of this one, I want to take all these little circles. Now be careful not to take the wrong one. I don't want to take the one off the circle next to it. I just want to take those out because I don't need those. And in fact this one I'm going to group so that I don't, oh it's already grouped, that one, okay. I don't want to do anything to that one, but I do want to group this one. There we go. Now, if I was going to put any tabs on this, I would group these dots. I would then make sure that I had the inside ring subtracted from the outside so that I had a solid shape, and then I would put on my tab if I wanted to. I'm not going to bother doing that. I'm just going to cut out tabs separately for the moment because this is just a trial piece. So I'm going to cut those out and come back when I've got them cut and we can put it together. So here are the pieces that I've cut out from the DXF file that I downloaded and showed you how I was manipulating it in my software. So here we go, here is the base one, and I've got 6 of these leaves to go on. Oops. These are really useful, but they are very, very fiddly. So they go on. You can put one over the other. It's easier to put them over than it is to put them under. Like that. There we are. that they're not tangled up. And then you have another 6 of these pins, and you simply put your pin through one hole and put it through this. Again, open it up, and you just work your way around until you've done them all. Right, so that looks promising. Now if I turn it, oh, absolutely brilliant. Look at that. Oops, just got caught on one of my pins, I suspect. Oh, there you go. Yeah, I got caught on my pin head just there. There we are. Now this one definitely still works geometry wise. It's a little bit iffy in the physical sense because the pins are catching. Now that could possibly be due to two different things. One obviously is the pins. If they're too loose or too tight or whatever, they could be catching on things anyway. But the other thing it could be is the fact that the card is much more flexible, and with having more pieces, there's just more things to catch. So this 3-leaf one opens and shuts really, really easily, no problem whatsoever, in spite of the fact that there should be more friction on this card because it's a rougher card and it's heavier. Whereas this one, with a very smooth card, I said the geometry works, no problem about that, but it's a little bit temperamental when it comes to turning, it's inclined to catch. But I think that's probably because these layers of card are flexing a bit too much. So from my point of view, for a card, I probably wouldn't go for the 6-leaf. I think that is too much bulk to go in the card. I think I would be far happier with the 3-leaf one. It has the same ability to open up and close, simpler to make, quicker to make, and it does the job. But it depends on what you're making it for. Now, if you're going to be making this as a 3-dimensional plastic or metal item, then you probably would have other methods of joining it, and these pins would not be what you were using. So that would delete that problem. From my point of view, this isn't quite so good for working. It looks great. I really do like the effect of all these extra leaves, but it's not so good at functionality and could cause me problems if I put it into a card. Right, so back to this one. I mentioned, or maybe I did, I can't remember if I mentioned, that on my own design I've put tabs on to keep everything together. And what you need to do is to put a plain ring on top of that, like so. And then, this is not the right size for this one, by the way. And then you would simply wrap some of these around so that it would hold it in place. Now, the only thing you have to do is to make sure that you leave room for the item to open and close. So if you mark an area in the middle where it's closed, and then you notice where it is, where it's open, you know how much it actually has to move, and you can put your tabs in place accordingly. This one here would have gone on there had I decided to finish it off. But the actual site, I think, works really well. I'm impressed with the ability of the software to calculate all the measurements needed for these and more. You can have a lot more leaves in it if you want to. And it's quite fun to just look at it and see how the mechanics of it actually work, especially since you can switch off certain parts of the drawing at a time and see things moving. So yeah, I think it's a fun site to visit. If you have a need for iris making, then it's definitely a good place to start. Thanks very much to Matt for letting me access it, and I will see you again soon. Take care now.